नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा बहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहमादिं शरणं प्रपदे नरसिंहमादिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नखाम् अद्भुत श्रृंगा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज सर्व विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्रील गुरुदेव की निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे।
हरे कृष्णा। अभी यहाँ पर अंग्रेजी में भगवत गीता पे प्रवचन होगा। जिन को भी भगवत गीता पर प्रवचन सुनना है यहाँ पे बैठे रहें। हरे कृष्णा। देयर विल क्लास here on Bhagavad Gita from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So those who want to hear it, please be seated and listen. हरे कृष्णा। Don't make any noise. कृपया शोरगुल ना करें।
Can sing Jai Radha Madhav? Jai Radha Madhav. Yeah. Take things.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय
Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtottara Shata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtottara Shata Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhiraye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रिये. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 66, chapter entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चा भावयत शांतिर अशांतस्य कुतः सुखम. So this is translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Purport: unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5.29. that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that He is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that He is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. However much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. That is a strong purport. So, Om Timirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome everybody to the Sunday evening Bhagavad Gita class at Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir, Chowpatty. So, the contents of the Gita summarized. This is the title of the second chapter, and now we will be doing today verse numbers 66, 67 and 68 because they all share a common theme. So therefore, we have now read 66, then after we deal with 66, we will just read out 67 and 68. Now this, Hare Krishna, yeah. Actually, in this second chapter, verse numbers 24 to 72, no, not 24, 54 to 72, verse numbers 54 to 72, they form a subsection, and the topic is symptoms of a self-realized person. This is what is being discussed in all these verses put together. Now we have come up to verse number 65 last time. Today we are going to do 66, 67, 68. So the same discussion is going to go forward. So the topic is symptoms of a self-realized person. And a self-realized person in Sanskrit is known as Sthita Pragya. Sthita means situated, and Pragya means one who is in knowledge, one who is in true knowledge of oneself, and one who is in true knowledge of the Supreme, both. Now, what are the stimulants leading to degradation of the soul in this material world? There are 6 stimulants which lead to degradation. And these 6 stimulants are known under the acronym of I Pagal. मेरे को पागल बना देती है. And what are they? Very simple. You all know it. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsari. So that is known as I stands for illusion, P stands for pride, A for anger, G for greed, E for envy, and L for lust. The same things. So these are 6 things which is constantly attacking us from inside. There is a war going on. And we have to defend ourselves. That means, us means who? The soul. Our identity is we are the soul. And so this soul has to fight against these 6 opposing forces. So these are the 6 gross forces which are fighting against us. Other than this, there are 3 subtle forces which are fighting, and they are Puja, Labh, Pratishtha. So the hankering of the soul in this world is, I should be worshipped. They want to become great, acknowledged as great. Puja, Labh, they want some benefit, they want some profit. Pratishtha, they want some reputation, they want some name, fame, all these things. So these are also things which are actually tormenting a soul in this world. So the battle is against these forces. But one who is able to rise above these allurements is non-intoxicated. So this is the intoxication of this world, especially Puja, Labh, Pratishtha. People are intoxicated with all these things and these 6 other gross elements. They all together make a person mad, and intoxicated person is mad actually. Why? according to legal status, if a person is signing an agreement under intoxication, under the influence of alcohol, that agreement is considered null and void. So therefore, it makes a person mad actually. So one who rises above these allurements is non-intoxicated, sober person. That is known as Sthita Pragya. In 2.54, Arjuna is asking 4 important questions to Krishna, and in answer to those questions, these verses are coming. So let us just go back to that question and then come back to the today's verse, which is an answer. Okay. So the question is, Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadir kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. So let us break it into 4 parts. Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha. The question is, what are the symptoms of a self-realized soul? What are the symptoms of a Sthita Pragya? The first question. Second is Sthitadir Keshava. That means, how does he react to praise or insult? That is the test of a person's stability. When one is praised, but does he get carried away? When one is insulted, does he go into depression? If you are still able to maintain your balance and deal with the other person on his standing, that means you are on a stable platform. You are not being thrown off your guard when somebody talks out of the way. Third question is, Sthitadir kim prabhasheta, means what are his actions and reactions? On his own, what does he do? How does he react to situations? That is, what is his language? Kim bhasha. Prabhasheta, that means what is his language? How does he communicate? And the lastly is kim asita vrajeta kim. Asita means how does he sit, and vrajeta means how does he walk. It is not literal. The meaning is, how does he sit means how does he control his senses. And how does he walk means how does he engage his senses. How does he withdraw the senses, or how does he engage the senses? This is the meaning of sitting and walking. Sitting means you're going back, means you are inactive. Walking means you are in action. So how does he engage his senses? That is the point. How does he interact with the sense objects? That is very important. It is an interplay. Life is an interplay between an individual's senses and the sense objects. Okay. So answer to this part of the question, the fourth part, how does he walk? How does he engage his senses, is dealt with in these following verses from 64 to 71. Last time we have done 64, 65, 60, 64 and 65 we did last time. Now we are going ahead, 66, 67 and 68. So the same theme will be continuing now also. So what does verse 64 states? We are just going back a little so that we come to the proper context in which we are going to talk about today's verse. So verse 64 says, a person free from attachment, aversions, whose senses are controlled and who follows the 4 regulative principles, automatically gains the complete mercy of the Lord. So see, this actually tells us a very important point. We say, Bhagavan ki kripa. But how does it come? It is there like a full tank above our head. It is always there. God is merciful by nature. But what makes that mercy flow down to us? So those key factors are mentioned here. A person who is free from attachment. Attachment what? Attachment of the senses to the sense objects. And aversions, or he is averse to it. I don't want this. I loathe it. I don't want it. I hate it. So there are 2 common words, hate and love. They are opposite of each other. I hate it. I love it. People generally say like this. I love it means they are attracted to that. They like it. I hate it means they are aversion to that. So it says here, a person should have neither aversion nor attachment excessively, whose senses are controlled. and who follows the four regulative principles. Last time also in this context I had mentioned it, but I'll mention again, because in this class many are quite new to ISKCON and they are just getting introduced. So it's essential to know what are the four regulative principles. Of course, those who are in ISKCON, they know it very well, but even then it will be useful to just briefly discuss it here. These four principles are: first, no intoxication of any kind. Why no intoxication? Because we just read something. We are already intoxicated, super intoxicated. 6 I pagal items and 3 subtle items. They are actually intoxicating everybody. On top of it, why do you want to consume more? इसको बीमारी को और क्यों बढ़ाना? That is the answer. So no intoxication, no artificial intoxication of any kind. And of course, intoxication means substance like alcohol, tobacco, etc., drugs, all these things. But you may be surprised to know there are 2 more items in the list which we all normally have, and that is tea and coffee. So, generally we are advised not to fall for any of these things. I will ask you one simple question. You may wonder, is it a little bit too much? Because when somebody comes to your house, the first thing you offer is tea. Chai. That is how people welcome people home. And here they say, no intoxication, no tea, no coffee. Is it going a bit too much? Are you becoming fanatic? I'll ask you one simple question. I'm sure all of you must be having some puja at home. You must be celebrating Ram Navami, Shivratri, Ganesh Utsav. Now Ganpati is going on, Ganesh Utsav is going on. I'm sure you offer something to the Lord. Bhagwan ko bhog lagate honge na? What do you put? What do you offer? What are the things you offer? Laddu. Okay, laddu, fruits, milk, candy, sugar candy, khadi sakkar. Yes. What other things? Dry fruits, tea, coffee. नहीं. आप लोग लेते हो ना? Then क्यों नहीं देते हो? That is the simple answer. See, even in our daily practice, we are not offering it to the Lord. Then why should we have it? Because these are contaminated substances. They will increase the level of your intoxication, which पहले से बढ़ा हुआ है. Why you want to increase it more? This is a simple test for you to answer it to yourself, that yes, this is in the right direction. So, that is it. Then, second thing is, no gambling. Gambling, you know how it ruins people, okay? No meat eating, because that does not fall under the category of, we can say in one way, civilized food. Because what nature produces as food, that is better than making something artificially as food, killing an animal and eating it. So that is no meat eating. That involves violence. So therefore, no meat eating. And lastly, no illicit sex. That is against the norms and against the accepted norms of proper behavior. So these 4 things, if you avoid, means you are following the 4 regulative principles. So this helps us to progress in Krishna consciousness, because these 4 things are actually the pillars of sin. So if you withdraw yourself from the pillars of sin, at least you come to the platform of leading a sinless life. Accumulating pious credits is another thing. Come to the neutral position. Do not be in debit. If you are not in credit, at least avoid debit. Come to 0 or neutral position. That is the answer. Then, yes, so where is it? Yeah. One second, just lost the link. So one has to be free from these 4 things, and such a person keeps away temptations that will make him lose control of his senses, uses his discretion, that is, he's using his intelligence, and chooses to stay in good association, more or less like a devotee association. Intelligence is to discriminate between favorable and unfavorable, between the right and the wrong, between foolish and wise. So we have to show our choice, and God will supplement our efforts. He has given us some intelligence. He has given us some ability. So first of all, he says, use what I have given and I will supply what you lack. That is what he says. Okay. So he is impartial. We are responsible for the choice we make. And we have to face the consequences of the choice we make. But he gives us helplines. He is not leaving us high and dry. He is giving us the responsibility of making a choice, but he also gives us helplines to make the right choice. And these helplines are Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. These three helplines he has left for us, which we can make use of those things and help to make the right choice. So this is explained in chapter 10, verse number 10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki. Okay. So see, what does Lord say? Those who are constantly striving on the path of perfection, who are regularly worshipping me, engaging in my devotional service, I supply the intelligence to them, dadami buddhi yogam tam, by which they can come to me. So his active participation is always available, but he wants us to make the choice and take the initiative, take the first step. You take the first step and I will second it. And his backing is very powerful. He can actually carry us high up. That is his capacity. Okay. Also, how to control the senses? Because we are always talking about self-control. These senses are very slippery. To catch them and to keep them in control is very difficult. That we know. So, by repressing, you cannot control the senses. By trying to beat it down, ye nahi karna, wo nahi karna, don't do this, don't do that. No, it becomes very difficult. Na bolega to it becomes negative. There is a positive way of controlling the senses, and that is, you give a higher taste, then the lower taste will fall off. So in this case, I will give you one small example which many people will be able to relate to. There was a 9-year-old boy playing cricket with a 14-year-old boy. 14 means he is in his teens. And this 9-year-old boy is not yet in his teens. So every day he used to come and, call him, and they both would go together and they would enjoy the game. After some days, the 9-year-old boy saw the 14-year-old boy is not coming to play cricket. He said, why? What happened to him? Why is he not coming? Then one day he saw he's going out with a girl. So what has happened now? His taste has changed. He's in the teens. So now he's getting attraction to the opposite sex. So what is he doing? Now he has gone to a higher taste. Not factually, but what I mean to say is, this is what people will generally understand. They'll be able to catch this example fast. So he has got a higher taste, so he is not interested in playing bat and ball. Okay? So in the same way in life, when we choose to engage in activities that are favorable to devotion, that will be the higher taste. Then what happens? Our taste for the baser things in life. These are the 4 things which are baser: intoxication, meat eating, illicit sex and gambling. These are the baser things in life. Then our attraction towards these things will automatically fall. Because in this verse we are telling what is it that automatically attracts the mercy of the Lord. So God has set standards. If you just press the right button, the right equipment will be on. If you want the fan, you press the button for the fan. If you want the light, you press the button for the light. So here he has given us various options, the keys with which to operate these individual locks. So there is this shloka which says the same point. Win the lower taste by the higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjyam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. This is 2.59. Now we are in 66, so 59 we have already done some time back. Okay. Now, it is not by repressing we control the senses, but by a higher taste that we control. Utilize the senses. What is the higher taste? Utilize the senses in the service of the master of the senses. We are not the master of the senses. They may be our senses, but we are not the master. There is another master. That is given in another shloka. Sarvopadivi nirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruttama. The meaning of this is Rishika means senses. And Rishikesha means one who is the controller of the senses. Rishika Isha. Isha means Ishwar. Ishwar means one who is the controller of the senses. Actually, Krishna, the Supreme, is actually the controller of everybody's senses, micro and macro, both. We have got some control over our senses, but the ultimate control, main switch, that he is operating. So when you engage your senses in his service, automatically the senses become purified and they will not be disturbed by the distraction. I would not use the word attraction, by the distraction of the sense objects of this world. For a boy, a girl is a sense object. For a girl, a boy is a sense object. For a diabetic patient, rasgulla is a sense object. He should not be eating it, but that is attracting him. In the same way, there are different things for different. Music for the ears, like that. So many things are there. But what is it that we should allow the senses to be attracted to, and what is it from which we should check the senses? Because in whichever direction the senses flow, in that direction our activities will flow, and that will entail reaction in our life, and that reaction is what binds us in karma, and then we sink deeper and deeper. Daldal mein fas jate hain. That's what happens to us. So, because he is concerned with the satisfaction of Krishna, his senses are surrendered to Krishna. This is how a Krishna conscious person transcends attachment of the senses to the sense objects. Because a Krishna conscious person is constantly meditating on Krishna, thinking about Krishna, and he wants to utilize all his assets. The senses that we are awarded are our assets. So he wants to utilize his assets in the service of the Lord. So if Krishna wants, he will do anything. And if Krishna does not want, he will not do. So what is the example of Krishna wants, he will do anything? Priyavrat. There is a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He actually went into the forest to do tapasya and to become a renunciate. He was the son of a king. But then, when the time came, he was called upon by the seniors. They say, no, now you must take the throne and you must maintain the kingdom. So you get married, you settle down in family life, assume the throne and take up the responsibility of ruling the kingdom. So he yielded to the request of the elders. So then he understood that what these people are telling me, that is in accordance to the scriptures, in accordance to the dictates. So therefore he surrendered to those authority and he followed it. Similarly, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was not prepared to fight. He was not prepared to fight. But when Krishna gave him instructions, what did Arjuna do? He surrendered to the will of the Lord. So this is what is the meaning, that when Krishna wants, a devotee will do anything. Then if Krishna does not want, he will not do. So King Prithu, there is one story in the Bhagavatam, King Prithu, he was doing 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas. If he does 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, he can become Indra. He had done 99 and Indra was very disturbed. So he was doing all sorts of things to disturb the Yagya. And when he was starting the 100th yagya, Vishnu appeared there. And he said, Prithu, stop it. Don't have to do the 100th yagya. After you do the 100th yagya, I am supposed to appear, but I am coming on the 99th. I don't want you to do the 100th yagya. So he immediately stopped it. He didn't say, no, I will complete my quota. Only then I will be entitled for the results of the yagya. He says, no, I am already getting it. I am already getting it on the 99th. Then why should I do the 100th one? So he understands. He understands and he surrenders to the will of the Lord. Similarly, Dhruva's brother was attacked by the Yakshas. So Dhruva wanted to take revenge on the Yakshas and he started killing the Yakshas right, left and center. When the matter went out of hand, Brahma appeared on the scene and he told Dhruva, stop it Dhruva. You have done enough. You have showed them your power. Now, you don't have to eliminate the race of the Yakshas. You don't have to do that. You stop it. So therefore, in the same way, even during this Janmejaya, he wanted to kill all the serpents because his father was killed by the biting of Takshak. So when he started performing that yagya to kill all the sarpas, so when that yagya was performed, all the snakes started coming and falling into the fire. So at that time, the Supreme Lord and other authorities, they came and they said, please don't disturb the environment, don't disturb the ecological balance, don't do this. Snakes also have a role to play in ecology, so they have their own role, so don't do that. Don't carry your revenge to the other extent, to the other end of the spectrum. So this way, a Krishna conscious person is balanced. He understands. He wants to serve the Lord out of love. Mercy is the Lord's reciprocation. So, in verse number 65, we are told that his intelligence is well established. So, how is it? That we will see now. In verse number 65, this point is being dealt with. When there is complete satisfaction of senses and consciousness, then the threefold miseries do not affect the person, and intelligence is well established, that is, does not go crooked. That means a person will not say how to bypass the law. That is crooked intelligence. And he doesn't want to have unfair gains. He wants to have gains in the normal course, not in an unfair manner. So he will not use crooked means to make an unfair gain. So this is when a person's intelligence is well established. So when one is not Krishna conscious and therefore there is no satisfaction, then what happens? Transcendental intelligence is not possible. This is what we are coming to in the 66th verse, today's verse. Transcendental intelligence means intelligence which connects you to the supreme transcendental authority, to Krishna. It shows you how to connect, how to follow the instructions of the Supreme Lord and the saintly people, and how to improve your lot and how to improve the society in which you live. So for that, in the 66th verse, these points have been discussed. Transcendental intelligence will not be possible, and the mind will become unsteady if one is disturbed. And if one is disturbed, the mind will be unsteady and there cannot be peace. If your mind is not steady, you cannot be peaceful. If something goes wrong in your life, that night you don't sleep. There's no peace. You can't sleep. People say, रात भर सोया नहीं, इतना चिंता में डूब गया था. And if there is no peace, how can there be happiness? Happiness is prerequisite for peace. Peace is prerequisite for happiness. Happiness is possible only if there is peace in one's life. So one has to be at peace with the situations around oneself. So real peace formula is given in 5.29. It says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasa sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shanti mirchati. This means Krishna is the only enjoyer. As the supreme proprietor, he is the real friend of all living entities. So without Krishna consciousness, which is the final goal, there can be disturbance, and therefore there will be no lack of goal if one doesn't have the goal of attaining Krishna in one's life. So this is what is given in chapter 5, which we are yet to come. But then it is in connection with the topic now, so we are just discussing that. Okay. We want to accumulate wealth and we want to become the proprietor. But we should know that what kind of proprietorship we have. So long as we are alive, that property is in our name. The minute you die, what happens? It goes to the legal heir. Your name is removed from that. So our proprietorship is very short-lived. This land of India in which we are living, we say we are Indians, this is our land. But even many, many years ago, even before we were born, even before our forefathers were born, the land was already there. Who was the proprietor of the land then? So that is mentioned about America. Columbus, he went to America and he said, I have discovered it, so this is mine. But it doesn't happen like that. That land was already in existence and people were already staying there. So who is the proprietor of all this? The Lord is the proprietor. And He is not the proprietor only of planet Earth. All the planets that you see in creation, they are all, He is the proprietor of everything. So that is His capacity, that is His position. So if you understand that, then you understand why we should unnecessarily rack our brains with these kind of petty problems. He has given us enough for our livelihood and for our sustenance. But if we focus our attention on how to please Him and how to serve Him, then our life is better lived rather than in accumulating more and more and unnecessarily getting involved in problems. Okay? So, what happens if senses are not regulated by Krishna consciousness? That is the 67th verse. So let us read that now. It says, Indriyani hi charata yanmano nu vidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayur navamivambhasi. It says, as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. The purport is, unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique of controlling the mind. So engaging the senses in the Lord's service controls the mind. That is the key to controlling the mind. Otherwise, the mind will start wandering here and there. And we are always worried about the mind which is uncontrolled. It can actually land you in great difficulties. So here is the key given, and therefore it is explained that another example for this is, there is a boat. And there are various attachments they have on the boat. There is a rudder, there is a blade and everything. So there have to be some holes in the boat to fit all these things. But then what do they do when they make the boat? They take care to see that all the holes are properly plugged so that the water does not come into the boat. Similarly, for the senses are 5 holes in our consciousness. The senses are the ones with which we connect to the outside world. Sight, hearing, smelling, all these things. We are able to relate to the outside world. So they are our conduit to the outside world. So, if the holes in the vessel are leaking, what happens? The water in the vessel will flow out, or conversely, if there is a boat which is floating on the water outside will start flowing inside, right? So when there is a hole in the boat, what will happen? The water will start flooding the boat. And what will be the result? The boat will sink. Same thing happens in the consciousness. If you consider consciousness as a boat and the senses as the holes, if these holes are plugged, then the outside pressure will not affect you. But if these holes are not plugged, then what happens? The outside pressure will overcome the utility of the boat and it will start sinking. That's what happens in our life also. So when the senses are uncontrolled, even if one sense is uncontrolled, forget all the 5, even if one, take an example of gambling. If somebody has this habit of gambling and in a family of 5 people, everybody is working hard, earning money, saving and maintaining the family nicely. But one person has the habit of uncontrolled gambling. What will happen? Tell me. Can the whole family not go bankrupt? It's very much possible. He can bet money and he will take away the wealth of the family, he will steal it, he will take it away. If you tell him, he will not listen because he is a hot gambler, and everything will away. So in the same way, in our consciousness, the same thing happens. We lose all that has been accumulated, all that has been collected with tapasya, it will go away. So a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Agitated senses seek satisfaction in sense objects, and one plunges into illusion. So when the senses are agitated, they will go for the sense objects. But if the senses are not agitated, if they are engaged in the service of the Lord, then they will not be disturbed by the outside allurements. They will not be attracted to the sense objects. Okay. Now the classic example of the boat sinking is that of the Titanic. We all know the story. The movie also has there. It was advertised as the unsinkable boat. And in fact, the lifeboats which are kept on the deck of the Titanic, the captain removed all of them. He said, this boat is so strongly made, it cannot sink. So we don't need this lifeboats. These lifeboats are actually obstructing the vision of the horizon that we are able to see from the deck. So let us remove all this disturbance. Let all the passengers have a clean view. And all those things were removed. Then ultimately what happened? It collided against an iceberg. And the tip of the iceberg was very small. So the captain thought that it is over there, so I will go from here. But how does an iceberg function? What is the construction of an iceberg? It is got a broad base and a narrow top. So he omitted that point, he neglected that point, and that huge iceberg, which is like a solid rock, it crashed against the underbody of the ship, and that unsinkable ship started sinking. And people were put to great difficulties because they had no lifeboats. So this is that famous story of the Titanic. So these are actual examples which we can relate to in our daily life. So the 4 pillars of sin we should be very careful to avoid. Even if one commits. Okay, so having come to all these things, now I will give you one small story. So this will also eliminate all these points very nicely, and with that we will end the lecture. So this story is that of Adi Shankaracharya. Now, you know Adi Shankaracharya. Who was he? Does anybody know who was he actually? Incarnation of which personality? He was incarnation of Lord Shiva. So Shiva is not an ordinary person, a very, very exalted Mahadev. He is the chief of all the Devatas. That is his position. And he incarnated as Shankaracharya so that he could guide the people who should not be going on the wrong path. This happened after Kali Yuga set in. After Gautama Buddha appeared on the scene, and what happened? Buddhism spread all everywhere. And what does Buddhism say? It negates the Vedas. So it says forget the Vedas. Because people, as Kali Yuga set in, what happened? People started losing their standards. And they started slaughtering animals in the name of Yajna. And when that happened excessively, it had to be checked. So the Lord appeared as Buddha and he preached non-violence. And he said, do not slaughter the animals and follow me. He said, forget the Vedas, forget everything, because people were following the Vedas and they were slaughtering animals. They were actually misusing the Vedas. So in order to bring them out of that misuse, he said, simply follow me. Keep away the Vedas, keep away all these things. At that time, the Lord, to bring people back to the path of the Vedas, he incarnated as Shankaracharya. And he started telling them that everything is one. That is Advaitavad. Okay? The Atma and the Paramatma, everything is one. There is no difference, no differentiation. And gradually, he started bringing people back to the path of the Vedic fold. So for that purpose, he had incarnated. And then, So one day he was going with his disciples and they were walking into a forest. So they started feeling thirsty at one point of time. So one man who was like a Adivasi staying there in the forest, he invited him, Shankaracharya, into his hut. And he was actually very happy to see Shankaracharya. Naturally, a personality like Lord Shiva, if he walks into your house, how will you feel? You will feel exalted because they have great potency. So he felt very exalted and he actually wanted to give him something. So he was asking for water. Now see, understand one thing. He was from that community, and there, for them, it was a regular practice to brew liquor in the house every day morning from rice and other grains. So he thought, why should I give him only water? I will give him some liquor to drink. So out of respect and out of a feeling of, welcoming a great personality, he did that. According to his limited intelligence, he did that. So his intention was good, but what he was offering was wrong. But what did Shankaracharya do? Out of respect for that person, he accepted that liquor and he drank it. Now you will be wondering, he is a sannyasi, he is such a great leader of the dharma, what is he doing? But something was happening. His disciples were behind him and they saw. And they were just nodding their head. So our Guru can allow us to drink also. So some of them also went and give also some. So some of them also went and they also started having something. And naturally they got intoxicated. So they started walking further. He just saw behind and he started smiling. Acha, theek hai. So you have also taken this. Fine. So he started walking a little ahead. And when they came to a remote village, there was a blacksmith over there. And this blacksmith was smelting iron. Loha pigal raha tha wo. He was smelting iron on the, that furnace that he had. And he was using his bellows to blow the air so that the coal will blow hard and the fire will burn heavy. Then, when he went there, he said, yes, Swamiji, how can I serve you? He said, can you give me a glass of molten iron? He was looking with wonder. He says, no, don't worry, just give me a glass of molten iron. So he poured a glass of molten iron and gave it to Shankaracharya and he drank it. Now he looked at them, he says, come on, can you drink it? They all fell down flat at his feet. Who is Shankaracharya? I told you he is Shiva. Who is Shiva? He is the person who has condensed the ocean of poison and drank it and held it in his throat. So what is his potency? He is not an ordinary person. So just because for great personalities, we must not imitate their actions, we must only follow their instructions. That is the law. That is the code. That is the standard. So this is an old story which I heard when I was a small child and my mother used to relate this to me. So you see, there are such wonderful examples in our scriptures. Okay? So this is what we should understand. We cannot take things for granted. We cannot use our intelligence to misinterpret the scriptures. We should simply follow the instructions of the Guru and follow a bona fide Guru. Then we are on the right path. So now we did 67. We will just complete 68 also now. Okay. In 68 it is mentioned, Tasmadasya mahabhaho nirgrihitani sarvashah Indriyani indriyan arthebhya tasya pragya pratisthita. The translation is, therefore, O mighty armed one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Purport is, one can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed not only by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka or a suitable candidate for liberation. So see, this is how the whole flow goes. This is how the whole story moves. Senses are very important and we should know how to deal with the senses. Otherwise, we are asking for trouble in our lives. Last time also I mentioned this. I will just give you. You see, what is our inner structure? We cannot know it ourselves. Mind is one aspect. Intelligence is another aspect. Above the mind and intelligence, there is ego, which we normally are not able to perceive because we are so consumed by it that we don't even know that it is there. We are completely swallowed by ego. That is our problem. So therefore, how these things affect us and how these things can be used in our life is seen like this. The sense objects, they have the power to attract our senses. So they pollute the senses. And when the senses are polluted, they are disturbed and they disturb the mind. Because above the senses is the mind. The controller of the senses is the mind. So they can disturb the mind. And the mind, when it is corrupted, it can disturb the intelligence. And when intelligence is corrupted, it degrades the soul. So the person actually, he falls into vices, crimes and sins. This is how the flow is, if the senses are not controlled. On the other hand, if your soul is surrendered to Krishna, to God, then it can control the intelligence. Soul can control the intelligence. It has got the strength. And the intelligence will stabilize the mind. And the mind will check the senses. And the senses, when they are purified by devotion, they are detached from the sense objects. So when a young boy, he sees a young girl, he doesn't get carried away if his senses are properly engaged and controlled. He will discharge his responsibilities in a proper manner, in a civilized manner, and he will not enter into sinful activities. We are reading so many of these instances happening in the paper on a daily basis. Crime, murder, rape, all these things. Why they are happening? Because of uncontrolled senses. So here is the formula to control it. So, and this also we understood by the story of Lord Shankaracharya. So this way we understand how our scriptures, our daily life, how our internal structure, everything are harmonious with each other. And therefore we can very comfortably practice Krishna consciousness by following the simple rules, 4 regulative principles: chanting the holy name, accepting a spiritual master, and associating with the devotees. So now I think it is 8:30, and at about 8:50, the darshan will open. Before that we can have some kirtan. But before that there's one announcement. I'll complete the announcement and then the kirtan party is here, they will take over. It is mentioned here? Achha, isme diya hai? Okay. So there is this Bhagavad Gita Essentials by His Grace Purushottam Prabhu. See, what we are doing in this class is giving exposure to Bhagavad Gita. But to study Bhagavad Gita deeply and more nicely, we have these other courses which are running in the temple. So one of our senior brahmacharis, His Grace Purushottam Prabhu, is conducting this on September 20th, 21st and 22nd. And our Alpesh Prabhu will be standing outside. And he will be registering those of you who would like to register for these courses. And so therefore, you can please meet him. He will be there with this pamphlet in his hand. And so that is just to inform you about this, I have spoken this, okay? The timing is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The dates are, that is the days. Timing is 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And the dates are September 20th, 21st and 22nd at ISKCON Chowpatty in the Bhaktivedanta hall below, okay? Thank you very much. And now we have Shivram Prabhu coming in for the kirtan, and the whole kirtan team is ready. So I would like them to invite for the kirtan, and so we can please go ahead for the next session. Thank you very much.